Dr. Shefali, thank you for accepting the invitation to be one of the speakers at the Childhood Potential Online Montessori Conference. I'm really glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
You are a clinical psychologist, you're an international speaker, you are a best-selling author, two books, Conscious Parent and The Parenting Map. You are integrating Eastern mindfulness and Western psychology in a very revolutionary approach that has transformed parenting and self awareness worldwide. You empower parents, especially to break free from all the societal expectations and to foster genuine connection with their children. You have your podcast and you also have your Conscious Coaching Institute. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about your projects and where people can find you?
Sure. So every week they can find me on my podcast, and it's a Dish podcast. I don't interview anyone. I'm really coaching people in real time. So every Tuesday, you can find the podcast on Apple or Spotify or wherever you hear podcasts, but you get tools. You get strategies on how to relate to your own life because you're hearing how I help other parents. And then I have a coaching institute where if people want to learn to do what I do, they can join my online coaching institute, and it's open twice a year, and they can get information on my website.
Today, we are supposed to talk about the difference between ego based and connection based parenting. And we are also supposed to talk about breaking free from the expectations that we have as parents on our children. I wanted to ask you the first question. Why do you think this is important? Why have you chosen this topic as the topic for our conference?
Well, our children's health is the most important, their emotional health, their sense of safety and well being. And all of us parents have that goal. So there's no parent who doesn't want to raise secure children. But what stops us from doing that is our own emotional baggage from childhood. And what I teach in all my books, my latest book is called The Parenting Map. I give 20 steps on how parents can break free of their own inner pain and wounds, because that's what we put onto our children without realizing that we are. So when parents can do that inner work, then they are more capable of truly meeting their children's needs. Most of us parents have the intention, have the desire, but why is it that our children grow up anxious or are emotionally disconnected from themselves, where they harm themselves, where they, are so depressed? It's because even though we have the best intention, our own childhood wrongs get in the way. And what I teach is for parents to uncover those childhood wounds and begin to heal them so that they can better take care of their children.
What happens if we actually don't manage to uncover all of our wounds? And is it really possible to uncover all of them?
Well, we're never going to uncover all our wounds and we're never going to heal ourselves. But I think at the very basic, when we don't know how to regulate our emotions, just at that level, we can project all these emotions onto our children and we can harm our children because we project so much of our own internal chaos onto them. So, at the very basic, we need to learn about what's coming up for us. What is this triggering in us? Where is it from our past? At least to own it. And then we can create that separation between ourselves and our children. So, at least then our children have a chance to develop in their own way without us putting all our shame and anger and guilt on them.
We wanted to talk about the difference between ego based and connection based parenting. For those who might not be familiar with these terms, would you like to describe the distinction and the importance of this in the early years of childhood?
So, what I teach in conscious parenting is different than the traditional model of parenting. So the old model, the way you and I were raised, and many people are still raised, is where the parent knows best. The parent is the boss, and the parent controls the destiny of the child. So the child grows up looking up to the parent for guidance and for a sense of worth. Now, some of this we have to do as parents because we are in charge, but we do it out of a state of control and fear. We are really fear. We were raised, you and I, in fear based parenting where our parents controlled us. And what I teach in conscious parenting is a new way to parent where we are not operating from this state of fear and control over our children, but we are operating out of a sense of abundance, connection, wholeness, where we truly see our children as autonomous beings, where they are separate from us, where we don't see them as an extension of us, where we get to put on them all our unmet needs and our unmet expectations, where we get to be with them, truly guiding them, but seeing them that they are completely separate from us. They are not, an extension, a mini me. And when we come to that place of seeing them for who it is they are, versus somebody we can project our own fantasies on, then we allow them to discover themselves without putting cultural conditioning on them.
Does it mean that we need to get rid of most of our expectations? Probably only the ego based expectations, right?
We can expect basics like, things that are important for their life, such as, literacy, being with the family, not harming anyone, including themselves, a basic dignity of self and other. We can expect that. I'm talking about the ego based expectations like you should be a piano player, you should be an A grade student, you should be a doctor, you should follow my religion, you should respect me the way I like to be respected, you should be obedient and compliant. These things are not coming from necessity, these are coming from our ego. And knowing the difference, I talk about life enhancing skills and ego enhancing skills. So, yelling at your child to play the piano, that's not a life enhancing skill, it's an ego enhancing skill. Life enhancing skills are what works for everyone around the world: safety, education, basic education, dignity for the rights of self and other, not harming anyone. These are basics. These you can expect. And if you keep it simple, then actually the rest takes care of itself because the child will want to, earn a living because they love themselves. They will want to take care of themselves because they have self worth, but you haven't put it on them. And that takes a lot of discipline, self discipline, to not keep pushing them to become who you want. I make the mistake too today. I keep pushing my daughter, even though I know I shouldn't push her. It's natural in some ways, but we need to recognize it not as a virtue, but as an ego. It's okay to have an ego, but recognize that it's your ego. That is the difference. It's not like you should have no ego. I have an ego even today, but I don't pretend I'm a non ego parent. I don't pretend, oh, everything I say is only for my child. Absolutely not. I recognize my fears, I recognize my anxieties, and I have to work through them.
Do you have a tip on how we can actually really recognize that in ourselves? Like how can we work with ourselves to be true to ourselves and to recognize what is ego based and what's not?
How do we recognize? Well, number one, your children will show you in some way. And when they show you and you're not able to understand them and you're resistant, then there would be a clash. And consistent clashes are a sign that one of you is in ego. And because you are the parent and you are stronger, at least when they're younger, it's probably you. Now, as they grow older, it could become them too. But I'm talking about with young children, where they're constantly clashing and they don't feel safe, they are dysregulated. There may be something about you that you're not brave enough to look in the mirror. So it takes a lot of courage. Listen, parents historically have been put on a pedestal by culture. You are supposed to obey your parents. Your parents know best. That's not true. That is why parents don't want to look in the mirror, because culture has idolized us in many ways. But we need to take ourselves off the pedestal and allow for the humility that maybe we are not doing it out of true understanding of our children, that maybe we are doing it out of our own desires. And our children are revolting against that because they're feeling like you are imposing something on them that is not for them, but it's coming from you. So it takes courage, but our children will show us if we're willing to listen.
There are some expectations that we were raised in. How can we break from these generational expectations that we have?
The first step is awareness. Are we even aware of what's going on inside, right? Or are we just operating out of automatic response to what's going on in our head? One of the ways to wake up is to realize, oh, the belief systems I have inherited from my parents. I have been conditioned and I need to re examine them. That takes a lot of courage to do. Um, and so awareness, and then, you know, releasing our parents from blame, but really now reparenting ourselves. That's what I teach in my Conscious Parenting Institute, is how can we help others to reparent themselves, but how can we reparent ourselves? Because our parents were limited. They were conditioned just like we are. And they had even less resources than we have. So after 18, 19, 20, 21, at some point, we have to take the reins of our lives and parent ourselves. Okay, how much can we keep complaining? My mother didn't love me. My mother didn't love me. Okay, she didn't love you because she couldn't love you. Now we need to, are you loving yourself? Well, it's not only your parents' job to love you. It's your job to love yourself once you're an adult. That is the job of an adult to do. And that's what we need to start doing. That's how we break the generational patterns. That's how we break the generational curse and we begin again. It's going to take a lot of practice to break out of cycles. Look at eating addiction. It's so hard to break out of it. You slip up. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about every time again, I criticized my child, or again, I entered fear, or again, I screamed at my child, and not beating yourself, but awakening to go up and must try harder next time. And that's why reading books like my books, or joining an institute, or listening to a podcast, you have to practice. So you have to keep exposing yourself to the teachings. You're not going to get it right away. I still mess up every day. So I just mess up less and I can recover faster. But it's not about perfection, it's about practice.
Can you share with us some actual expectations that we might have as parents, or maybe even that we might have as to become parents before we really have the child? Or do you have some examples of the generational expectations, generational patterns that we are following?
We all have these expectations of, oh, we have family dinner together, or, oh, even my husband and I will not get a divorce, or, oh, my child will be a straight A student, or love playing the piano because I play the piano. I cannot tell you how many parents have these predetermined, I call them movies. They make a movie out of how their children's childhood will be. And then when that movie doesn't come true, The child doesn't like playing the piano. The child is not good at school. The child is not extroverted or athletic, or your marriage breaks down. Nothing is working out the way you envision. Then that is even harder for parents because the movie was here and the expectation is here. And the gap is so big between expectation and reality that the more you have a movie about how it's going to be, and then parents say, "Oh, I'll have a sibling, and then the children will be so happy together. I'll have two or three more children, and the parents will be happy together. The children will be happy together." And when that doesn't happen, then there's so much pent up frustration. But parents don't realize that it is they who created the movie, and it's children are just being children. So I always tell parents before they give birth, to look at their expectations, look at their movies, and to burn them, because you have no idea who this child even is, and you don't know how they will be with you, with your partner, and you don't know how your partner is going to be as a parent. You only met your partner as a partner. You did not know how they would be as a parent. So all these unknowns are X factors that we have no idea how we're going to react to. We can have one child and we can be calm and loving to them. Another child, maybe just 1 year later, we don't get along, right? It can be like oil and water because each child's temperament has to match and work with our temperament. And sometimes it cannot match. And we don't know why, we don't know how, it just will be a clash. So the more expectations we have, the more hard it is to accept reality. So when we can accept the isness, the what is, not the what if, how it should be versus how it is, the faster we can get along with our children and the more we can enjoy them and understand them. In my book, The Parenting Map, I talk about different kinds of children. Do you have a child who's an anxious exploder? Do you have a dreamer? Do you have a overgiver, overdoer, overpleaser? What kind of child do you really have? When you begin to accept the child you have versus the child you wanted to have, you begin to create that connection, that alignment.
I would love to ask you if you can share with us some tools and strategies actually for a mindful parenting, to foster balance, awareness, authentic relationships with our children at this very early stage, from birth to maybe age 3.
Yes. So, first is that this age group has the most fragile, delicate psychology. They need you as a parent to be their executive functioning. They need you to be part of their brain that they don't have yet. Children do not have a prefrontal cortex fully developed until like 28, especially between 1 and 3. They need to feel safe by having you present, by having you attuned, by responding to them all the time, by teaching them that their voice matters, that their discomfort is honored, and they will be safe and taken care of over and over again. Every time you respond calmly, immediately, patiently, you are creating those neural pathways in their brain that says, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm okay, I'm okay. So that's number one. Number two, it's to take care of yourself, because to be somebody else's brain means you have to have extra energy and you have to take care of yourself. You have to lower your expectations, lower your pressures. You cannot go to the gym and be a great wife and have a career and be a great mother and have a social circle and be a philanthropist and be on the board of 10 charities. You cannot do it all. So take out the expectations that you have to be perfect. And then I would say, as your child grows up, have a great sensitivity to the fact that your child doesn't have the skills, has not had the life experience, and may be really scared of you. And then my last advice is really create an alternative to punishment. Punishment kills the brain cells, it creates fear and paralysis. Punishment will never be effective. Find another way to teach your children when they are behaving badly: empathy, validation, sense of safety, and then give them the tools. And then practice, practice, practice through role play. You know, you be the mommy, I'm going to be the child, I'm going to have a tantrum. Teach me how to behave. Then you be the child, I be the mommy, I'll teach you how to behave. We teach them, we don't scold them for not behaving well. They don't know how to behave differently.
Well, I'm hoping that our audience, since we are a Montessori conference, I'm hoping that our audience is not really expecting that we should be using punishments, as you said. But I'm still wondering if you could give us a little more tips on how to deal with some very common situations. For example, I have an email here right now that I'm answering to. A child not really wanting to eat lunch, but right after lunch, she goes and she wants to get her sweet snack bar.
So let's talk about that. So, first, the child doesn't have to eat, right? It's their body, their stomach, their mouth. But you don't want them to eat the candy. That I understand. So, number one, why is the candy there? Right? Take out all the candy. Number two, say the child wants to eat it. First, is the child bad? Wouldn't you want to eat candy? Right? So, first, we have to relax and stop getting upset. Understand the humanity. Oh, I know. I want to eat the candy too. So, what can we do? I need you to eat that first, and then you can eat the candy. Do you have any ideas what we can do to help you eat? Maybe if we play a game, or maybe if we read a book, but we cannot eat the candy first. We first need to finish our food. We talk to them like a human. There is no need to discipline. And if the kid says, no, I want it, I want it, I want it, then you get to decide. Do you let them have a little bit, or do you say no? And I would suggest, if you're getting into these kind of battles with your children, do not have candy in the house. It's not worth it. See, little children don't understand health and digestion and sugar and caffeine and insulin. They're thinking it's in the house, it tastes good. Of course, I want to have it. So we have to create the conditions to not have it. Don't have it in the house, but don't get angry with them for wanting it. That's not even a discipline issue. You know, that's a, I get it. I want it also. Let's hide it here and we can have it after we eat this, right? We can teach them, I want it too. Let's eat our food first. I'll take 5 bites, you take 5 bites. Whoever finishes first gets the candy. There's so many creative ways to make our children feel like they can get what they want without being yelled at, right? Yelling or punishing shouldn't be the first stop. First is, how can I understand that this is not a bad child? So even if your 12-year-old, you know, said he would come home by 8 o'clock, but comes home at 11 o'clock because he's with his friends, even that, are they bad? Wouldn't you want to be with your friends? Right? So we understand. And once you understand, you're calm and you go, okay, my child is not bad. I would try to do the same thing. If I wasn't scared of my parents, I would be doing that too. So now, how do we create an agreement for next time? Hey, I told you to come home at 9, you came home at 12. That's not cool. So we sign a contract, and what will happen if you don't come back? Because I'm not the bad guy. You have to follow your own contract. The contract is the agreement, is not because I'm the bad guy. You are making an agreement. So if you break the contract, it's on you. So help me. I don't want you to go out. I want you to have a good time, but I don't want to be worried about you coming home late and not getting enough sleep. So help me, I'll help you. Right? You create a win-win strategy for your children. When you treat your children like how you want to be treated, you will be fine. You don't even need to beat any book. It'll be common sense. But because of our ego, we think we should control and micromanage our children. And because we have unprocessed fear from childhood, we don't realize we're operating out of fear. Oh my God, my kid is coming home late. What will happen when they're 18 and they don't listen to me? But we're here now, right? The more safety you create now, the more your children will come to you and tell you the truth later.
If parents take away one key principle from your work, what would you want it to be and why?
Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't care about the external achievements and behaviors. Focus on your child's self esteem, their worth. And that is given to them by you in how you allow them to be ordinary. The more you let them just be who they are and love them unconditionally for just being ordinary, that will create this self worth that they will take out into the world.
And you talk about taking out into the world. What impact do you think has conscious approach to parenting? What does it have not only on the individual families but on the society as a whole?
I think you are reducing the number of children who begin to act out violently and create stress in the environment. Also, by creating emotionally resilient or helping create, we don't create anything, helping create emotionally resilient children, they have less negative impact in the world, right? They're not anxious. They're not draining the resources of society. They're healthy. So creating healthy or helping create healthy children is a very monumental responsibility that we have. But we can only create healthy children when we feel healthy inside. If we are not healthy, we won't be able to create healthy children, help create healthy children.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, really. And hopefully, this will help your people a little bit.